You're listening to languagecaster.com. Welcome everyone to the show for all those who love the beautiful game of football and who are also interested in improving their English language skills. My name's Damon and I'm based in Tokyo, which has just lifted its COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, so all shops and restaurants can open and there are no travel restrictions. Still a bit strange. And social distancing and masks are strongly recommended. And this coincides with the return of the Premier League this week, which joined other major football leagues in Europe and elsewhere in restarting. I enjoyed watching a few of the Premier League games, including Manchester City versus Arsenal, Tottenham versus Manchester United, and Everton versus Liverpool. Damian, how do you feel with the points Spurs got against Man United, and how's the lockdown in England?
Hello Damon, and hi to everyone listening in. We hope you are all well. Things here in London are moving towards a lifting of lockdown, but there are still many restrictions, including of course that football matches have to be played in empty stadiums. But at least football is back.
Yes.
All Premier League games are being shown live on TV here in the UK. And as we have been starved of football for over 100 days, I've managed to see all of them so far, as well as a couple of La Liga games. Watching Spurs play was strange in front of no fans in their new stadium. But if I'd been offered a point before the game started, I would have taken it. But then being 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, I was disappointed that United equalised from the penalty spot. A 1-1 draw was a fair result, I suppose. How about you with Liverpool in the derby, Damon?
Yeah, like you, the result was fair. Neither side really carried much attacking threat, but Everton could have nicked it at the end. Another point and 5 more to go to win the title, so I think it might be more difficult than some people think for Liverpool to get those 5 points.
Okay, now what's on the rest of the show?
Okay, we'll start with a little review of the football news, followed by some English for football language. And this week we explain rusty, a word connected with this strange season as players return to action after the break. We also have a football language quiz question, which this week looks at the verb to ping. After that, we'll take a look back at some of the games this weekend, including the big one, well, for me at least, which was the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool we've already mentioned.
languagecaster.com.
Yes, you are listening to languagecaster.com, and that message was in Welsh. Remember that you can send on a message in your own language to us here at admin@languagecaster.com.
Okay, let's kick off with some good news from the football world. Damian, what good news story have you chosen?
Well, it was not a huge surprise, but Bayern Munich wrapped up their 8th Bundesliga title in a row after defeating Werder Bremen 1-0 last Wednesday. They followed that up with another win at the weekend over Freiburg, their 12th in succession, to move 10 points clear of second place Dortmund. Robert Lewandowski scored another brace in that game to take his tally for the season to 33 in the league, a record for most goals by a foreign player in Germany. The Bavarian side play Leverkusen in the German Cup final in 2 weeks, and of course are still in the Champions League, so we'll be eyeing a treble. Well done to Napoli, who also won some silverware as they defeated Juventus 4-2 in a penalty shootout to win the Italian Cup. The final went to penalties after the game had finished scoreless, and this was the first time in 6 years that Napoli have won a trophy, and completes a remarkable turnaround for a club that was in turmoil only 6 months ago. Now, we have mentioned the Black Lives Matter campaign here on the podcast over the past few weeks, but in the opening games in England this weekend, there were some remarkable images as players not only wore the campaign slogan on their shirts instead of their names, but also every player from every team has taken the knee before kickoff to show their support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Very powerful images have been shown around the world, which is hopefully a start to making changes within the game and indeed the wider society.
Yes, great stuff. Now, for bad, well, the London side Arsenal will be feeling pretty bad after their first two games, which saw them lose twice. The first of them, a comprehensive loss, and then the second occurred after conceding very late on against relegation-threatened Brighton. In addition, they have had a player sent off, another facing disciplinary action after hitting a Brighton player after the final whistle, and they also had 3 serious injuries, including to their first choice keeper, Bernd Leno. Pretty bad in Russia too for Rostov, who were 4th in the top flight and fighting for the title, as 6 of their first team players tested positive for COVID-19, meaning that the whole first team and coaching staff had to be quarantined, isolated for 2 weeks. Now, the game could have been postponed if their opponents, newly formed Sochi, agreed, but they didn't, causing a lot of anger among football fans in Russia. Rostov, from the south of Russia, had to field a youth team, and they went on to lose 10-1 and effectively have their title hopes dashed. What about other bad stories from the week, Damian?
Well, can I mention the howler, the massive mistake, in the Aston Villa versus Sheffield United game? The Blades, Sheffield United, thought they'd broken the deadlock of a tight game when a goal-mouth scramble saw the ball carried over the line by the Villa keeper. Nyland clearly had the ball in his arms behind the post, but incredibly, the goal line technology didn't function, and the referee didn't receive a signal indicating a goal. A howler from the technology, as a win would have seen Sheffield United go equal on points with Manchester United in 5th place and keep up their chase for an incredible Champions League place.
Je luistert naar languagecaster.com.
Yes, you are listening to languagecaster.com, and that message was in Dutch. Here's Damon with this week's football language quiz question.
Okay. It's time for a football language quiz question, and this week we look at the verb to ping, P-I-N-G. Very simply, we want to know, what's the meaning of the verb to ping? Does it mean 1. To badly miss-hit a shot, 2. To score a goal with your head, 3. To foul a player in a really bad way, 4. To drive or pass the ball with accuracy? And we'll have the answer at the end of the show. Next, here's Damian with some more language of football.
Okay, the Premier League has recently restarted after a break of over 100 days due to the COVID pandemic. And while players have had some time to prepare, maybe 3 or 4 weeks of training, it is clear that many are a little rusty. Now, rust is something that happens when metal is oxidized. It becomes a brownish, reddish colour. But to be rusty also means that your skills are not as good as they once were because of a lack of practice. And this is something that is happening with footballers at the moment as they return to action after the long layoff. Players need to regain match fitness in order to become sharper, to do things quicker, and of course to last a full 90 minutes. While watching recent games on TV, I have heard the commentators use such phrases as an error-strewn game, which is a match with a lot of mistakes, sloppy passes, maybe they've been over or under hit, and these are passes which are misplaced as they fail to reach their intended target. Players are not quite up to speed, and this means their play may be lacking in quality as they take a while to get match fit. Hopefully, once they've played a couple more matches, they should start to regain fitness, become sharper, and shake off the rustiness. Now, other phrases we have looked at this week on our site include showboat and play to the crowd, as well as 0-0 written all over it. Come along to the glossary section on languagecaster.com to check them out.
Okay, with our football language section finished, that can only mean one thing, predictions, and a look at some upcoming matches and some that have just been played.
with lots of leagues returning after the lockdown, we thought it would be an idea to run a new end-of-season predictions competition. Simply come along to the site and try and take on Damon and myself in the predictions battle. It's 3 points for a win and 1 for a draw. Register for the 2020 post-lockdown league and let us know what you think. First up, let's take a look back at 2 big games that were played on Sunday. The Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool, and the game between Real Madrid and Real Sociedad from La Liga.
Everton versus Liverpool. This was so strange with no fans. It's somehow okay watching big games with other teams, but when it's a team you support and it's their derby, it just feels weird. I'd have been happy with the draw, which is what we usually get when we travel to Everton and Goodison Park, but with no home fans, maybe I thought that might favour Liverpool a bit. It was indeed a draw, 0-0, not the 1-1 I thought. Liverpool looked a bit rusty, but will be fairly pleased to get a point in a tricky away fixture.
I thought this game would finish as a draw too, maybe 0-0, a scoreless draw, as both sides got used to football after lockdown. And I was right, it finished 0-0.
Okay, next was La Liga and Real Madrid versus Real Sociedad. In La Liga, it was a 2-horse race. Barcelona dropped points, drawing 0-0 with Sevilla, while Real Madrid won emphatically 3-0 against Valencia in midweek, and then defeated Real Sociedad away at the weekend. This has sent Los Blancos top of the table as they have a better head-to-head record than their rivals Barcelona after winning one Clásico and drawing the other earlier in the season. I thought this would be another win for Los Blancos, 2-0.
Yes, Real Sociedad have not been playing so well since the restart, so I expected them to lose this game. I went for 2-1 to Madrid, and that was the final score. 3 more points for me.
Okay, and games coming up. Tottenham versus West Ham, June 23rd. A London derby. Tottenham will easily win this one, 2-0 to Spurs, and the Hammers will sink further into the relegation zone. Damian.
Maybe. I saw West Ham lose to Wolves on Saturday, and they are right in the relegation battle, particularly as their run-in is a tough one. Normally, West Ham raise their game against Tottenham, but with no fans in the stadium, it might be a different story. Maybe a 2-1 win for Spurs.
Okay, and our last game is Manchester United versus Sheffield United on June 24th. Now, Sheffield United could have been on equal points with Manchester United if their goal against Aston Villa had stood. But after another defeat of the weekend, this time against Newcastle, their European hopes look under threat. Away and empty, Old Trafford is a big challenge, and the Blades didn't look particularly good against Villa or Newcastle in their previous 2 fixtures. Manchester United, on the other hand, showed they have a lot of belief after they came back late against Tottenham. A 1-0 home win.
I think this is an easy win for United for me.
Right.
Maybe 3-0. And don't forget to come along to the site and let us know your predictions of these and many other games over the next 6 weeks.
Okay, just before we go, let's get the answer to our quiz question. We wanted to know which of the following is a description of the verb to ping. Is it 1, to badly mishit a shot, 2, to score with your head, 3, to foul a player in a bad way, or 4, to drive or pass the ball with accuracy? Damian, which one is it?
Well, to ping a ball in football is to hit the ball hard, fast, and accurately. So you might see it cross-field pass. People like Toni Kroos from Real Madrid or Paul Scholes when he was playing for Manchester United would ping the ball from left to right or right to left. And that brings us to the end of the show. Remember that you can contact us here at Languagecaster through our various social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest and Instagram. Come along to our forums, ask a question, drop us a line at admin@languagecaster.com. Take care everyone, stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Ta-ra everyone.